Hello, boys and girls. It is good to be with you today. In this session, you will be with me. I am Chung Yih Pei from SMK Pusat Bandar Puchong 1, Selangor. Are you ready with your notebook and stationery? Let's get started. In the first unit, we are going to learn about the composition of air. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to 1. Synthesize the composition of air from a pie chart. 2. Justify the importance of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and inert gases in daily life. 3. Solve problems when there are interferences in the oxygen and the carbon cycle. Let us watch the video here. After watching, please think about the problems facing our community.
Well, I have asthma, so definitely it will. I have asthma condition, so it is. But my housemates, they don't have asthma, but they're all wearing masks today because it's really bad at the moment.
Boys and girls, do you know what are the problems the community is facing now? Yes, this is the haze problem. Do you know what the cause of haze is and how to prevent it? Okay, let us investigate more about this in the following section. Let us review the previous topic about matter. Air has mass and occupies space. Everyone should know all living things need air to survive. We also know that clean air does not have color or smell. Therefore, we cannot see air even though it has a lot of substances in it. Boys and girls, do you know the name of this building? Yes, it is the Petronas Twin Tower, which is located in Kuala Lumpur. Now, let's think about the content of air. Air is a mixture of several gases, which are nitrogen, which makes up 78% of the content of air, oxygen, which makes up 21% of the content of air, carbon dioxide, which makes up 0.03%, and inert gases, which makes up 0.97%. What are inert gases? Inert gases are helium gas, argon gas, neon gas, xenon gas, and krypton gas. Besides that, other components that exist in the air are microorganisms, water vapor, and dust. The quantity of these components is low, and it varies according to place and time. For example, there is more water vapor in the forest or after a rain than there is during a hot day. Let us look at this pie chart for you to understand this better. This is the composition of air in the atmosphere. Nitrogen makes up 78%. Oxygen makes up 21%. Carbon dioxide makes up 0.03%. And inert gases and other substances make up 0.97%. Now, boys and girls, let me ask you a question. Is air a mixture or a compound? Yes, excellent. Air is a mixture. Air is a mixture because the components of air, number 1, combine physically. Number 2, can be separated by physical method. And number 3, retain their original properties. Now, let's go on to the next slide. Now, let's learn about the importance of gases. Let's talk about something you all know about. Oxygen. This is a very important gas for all the living things. Without it, all living things will die. Oxygen can be used for respiration, combustion, welding, and cutting steel. It can also be used for preparation of various compounds. Next, let's look at carbon dioxide. It is a very important gas for the plants to carry out photosynthesis. It can be used for the production of carbonated drinks. It can also be used for extinguishing fire, and it plays an important role in the carbon cycle. Now, let's discuss nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas can be used to produce nitric acid and ammonia in agriculture. It is also involved in the nitrogen cycle. Besides that, it can also be converted into liquid nitrogen and acts as a cooling agent. Next, let's discuss inert gases. There are very few inert gases in the atmosphere, but the inert gases play an important role in our daily life. Here are the types and uses of inert gases. Helium can be used to fill hot air balloons and weather balloons. The colorful light from advertising lights is filled with neon gas. And argon gas is used in light bulbs. Now, let's move on to the next section. Carbon cycle. Boys and girls, please look carefully at this diagram. The red arrow shows released carbon dioxide, while The blue arrow shows use carbon dioxide. You also can notice here that carbon dioxide is used for photosynthesis. However, processes such as decomposition, respiration, and burning of fossil fuels will release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So, the carbon continues circulating in the air to form a carbon cycle. This is the definition of carbon cycle. Carbon cycle is a cycle that maintains the content of carbon dioxide in the air by continuously taking carbon dioxide from the air and returning it into the air. Now, let's discuss the oxygen cycle. This is the oxygen cycle. From this diagram, you can notice that oxygen can be used for respiration, combustion, rusting, and decomposition of waste materials and dead organisms. The oxygen cycle is a continuous cycle that takes oxygen from the air and returns it into the air. Let's emphasize this again. Oxygen, which is needed in respiration, rusting, combustion, and decomposition, is obtained from photosynthesis. From here, we know that the carbon cycle and oxygen cycle are very important in our daily life. We must always appreciate the carbon cycle and the oxygen cycle that maintain the gas content in the air. So, all activities that harm the air must be reduced. Here are some ways to reduce interference to the oxygen cycle and carbon cycle. Number 1, prohibit illegal logging. 2, avoid using excessive pesticides. 3, reforestation. 4, do not burn forests. 5, prevent excessive release of smoke from vehicles. Boys and girls, now let's move on to the next section of the lesson today. We are going to discuss combustion. At the end of this section, you will be able to 1. Conclude about the conditions needed for combustion. 2. Relate the conditions of combustion with the principles used in the manufacture of fire extinguishers. This is the definition of combustion. Combustion is the reaction that occurs when a substance is heated in the presence of oxygen and which produces heat energy and light energy. Boys and girls, this is the most important part to learn about combustion. Please listen carefully. The 3 conditions needed for combustion are oxygen, heat, and fuel. We can prevent combustion if we remove one of the conditions needed for combustion. Boys and girls, do you know what this is? Yes, this is a fire extinguisher. It is a protective tool that is used to put out a fire or handle a small fire, usually during an emergency. There are few types of fire extinguishers for different sources of fire that we are going to learn here. Boys and girls, please look at this table carefully. From this table, we can notice that dry powder can be used for all sources of fire like solid, liquid, gas, and metal. While water can only extinguish fire which is caused by a source of solid. So, boys and girls, please always be aware that not all sources of fire can be extinguished by water. Now, we have come to the last section for today. That is air pollution. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to 1. Define air pollution and air pollutants. 2. Communicate about air pollutants and the causes. 3. Justify steps to prevent and control air pollution. Do you know what air pollution is? Air pollution is a situation which involves the presence of any pollutants in the air. This brings harm and discomfort to living things and destroys the environment. Air pollutants can come from various sources. Now, let's discuss the sources of air pollutants. Boys and girls, please look at this diagram carefully. From this diagram, we can see the sources of air pollutants. There are so many sources of air pollutants that can cause air pollution. Now, let's discuss the causes and effects of air pollution. Smoke, dust, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, asbestos particles, and lead particles can all cause various health problems as shown here. Buildings and infrastructures will also be affected by dust and acid rain. Acid rain is caused by sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide from the factories. Acid rain can corrode concrete and limestone buildings. It will also make the rusting of iron faster. Acid rain, smoke, and haze will affect plants and animals too. Air pollution will affect the climate. Haze greenhouse effect, thinning of ozone layer, and acid rain will happen. All the living things on Earth will suffer and die if this problem isn't controlled and solved. Now, let us discuss the ways to prevent and control air pollution. Firstly, we can control air pollution through law enforcement, such as imposing fines on smokers who smoke in restricted areas, individuals who conduct open burning, and drivers whose vehicles emit excessive smoke. Factories should also be prohibited from being built in housing areas. Secondly, we can educate students on the effects and prevention of air pollution. The government or NGOs can organize some awareness campaigns for the public. The public can be encouraged to use public transport more frequently and ride bicycles. Can you think of other ways, boys and girls? Lastly, innovative ideas can be implemented through the field of science and technology, such as implementation of hybrid technology in vehicles, replace use of chlorofluorocarbon CFC to hydrochlorofluorocarbon HCFC, install filters in smoke chimneys at factories, use catalytic converters on vehicles, and implement biological control in agriculture. Well, boys and girls, we are almost at the end of our lesson. But before I go, let's recall what you have learned by answering some questions. Are you ready? Question 1. Which of the following activities releases oxygen into the atmosphere? Very good. The answer is A. Photosynthesis. Which of the following factors are needed for combustion? Yes, that's right. The correct answer is D. Heat and fuel. Question 3. This diagram shows an electrical appliance that is used at home. What is the pollutant released from the use of the appliance? You are right. The answer is B. Chlorofluorocarbon. Well, boys and girls, it looks like we have come to the end of our lesson for today. Remember, boys and girls, love nature and protect our beautiful Earth. Until we meet again, bye bye.